Welcome to Spam Filter for Your Brain, bite-sized ponderings on how our thoughts influence our behaviour in our lives, and because we're all connected, how our thoughts impact the world. I'm here to help people reconnect with their bodies and declutter their brains. And I don't believe that we should just magically know how our emotions and our thoughts impact our lives if no one ever teaches us. So let's learn this stuff together. Here's something I've noticed that we do that isn't all that useful, and that is to believe that our inner critic, the voice that is very happy to tell you all of the things that you've done wrong, all the things you're likely to get wrong, and remind you of all of the other times that you've made mistakes. I've noticed that we really believe that that voice is true. We think that this is like the barometer of reason, that these insults and criticisms and the general meanness that falls into our brain, if you're anything like me, on the regular, like most of us on the regular, that this stuff is like some sort of metric of our value of our worth, and this is some sort of scientific insight about us as a person. That these voices that tell us that we are not getting things right and stack up all of our mistakes as some kind of evidence that we are deeply flawed as a being, that this is somehow the most honest version of any story that anyone has ever told about us. And with all the love in my heart, I want to call bullshit on your brain. It's really important to remember that all of the stuff that we tell ourselves, all of the stuff that we do is learnt. These are learnt behaviours, these are learnt voices, this is learnt messaging. You don't pop out of the womb thinking that you don't have the capacity to finish a task, or you're just the kind of person who is late, or you can't handle long-term relationships, or commitment is just something that you're afraid of. This kind of stuff is all taught to us from experiences around us, from people around us, from different voices and messaging from society. And it is just one story, and it is just one perspective. And sometimes taking a step back and just pausing and using what I like to call as a calculated use of commas. Like maybe your brain might tell you that you're a complete and utter failure, but just adding a little comma of, and what else could be true? What else could be possible? Is that always true? Is that actually factual? Any kind of thing that you can just add as a little suffix to just slide in an element of curiosity into some of these little brain demons that are out to get us can be really useful in causing a little pause. And it is in that pause of curiosity that sometimes we can crack things open enough to allow a little bit more kindness in. The number of people that I hear saying things like, oh, I'd never speak to somebody else the way that I speak to myself. And it's such a sort of throwaway phrase, but how many of us have actually stopped to go, okay, so I'd never speak to someone else like that, and therefore I'm going to try and stop speaking to myself like this. Or even on a bigger world view stage of going, the amount of cruelty that we can quite often speak to ourselves with infinitely adds to the cruelty in the world. And we don't need any more of that. The world needs more kindness, and if we are not willing to do this internally, how are we going to sort out some of these bigger world problems? How can you go into a situation where you're looking at a war zone and asking someone to forgive someone for taking their land or harming their family or stealing their heritage, when you can't even work out how to just pause and be kind to ourselves? It is our well-being and the way that we speak to ourselves is absolutely united with how we make a more peaceful world, a more peaceful society, and how we create a bigger picture of more kindness for all of us. And that phrase of like, it all starts at home, or you need to clear your own doorstep first. Like, this stuff really comes down to the way that we speak to ourselves in our heads. And it sounds like a really big pressured thing. I just want to be kind to myself. People are always telling me I should be kinder to myself. I need to speak to myself with more kindness. But just taking it down to that pause of a comma, I said something which wasn't gracious about myself, my actions, and outcome of something that I did. And what else could also be true? What else could also be possible here? What else could be allowed here? You have the capacity to do that. It is all within your power to create more kindness in the world, and it starts in your head with the way that you speak to yourself. This has been this week's lesson. I've been doing a lot of hand gestures. I'm sure you can hear them. If you can't, I bet you can see the way that I'm looking at you right now. Be more kind. It's important, and we all need it. And it starts with the way that you speak to yourself. That also means that you're not allowed to, be a dick to yourself about the fact that you're not being kind to yourself enough yet. You need to just watch out for that one too. Want any tips and tricks with this stuff? Come along to one of the courses. I hope this has been useful. See you next week. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on the podcast here, I would love to invite you to Self-Care School. Self-Care School is a membership site where we have group coaching calls every week. We have a whole load of courses that you can dip into for whatever suits your needs. We have courses on confidence, body image, timekeeping, how to manage big emotions, overwhelm, loads and loads of stuff in there. You can kind of pick out whatever you want to work on. There is a big library of workbooks, which includes journal prompts and questions for you to be able to apply this work to your own life. And we have the most amazing community where people support each other. We learn from each other, and you get to work alongside people with quite often very different life situations to your own, and we learn so much together in community. If you would like some more of this, please do hop over to selfcareschool.co.uk.